Won't it be Ryan the Great? And today we're reacting to the Eagles' playoff loss versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not even going to yell in this video because I expected this coming. As you guys know, my prediction was 31-21. It ended up being 32-9, so I wasn't too far off. But the Eagles' offense just looked terrible. The receivers, Hurts was limited. And his receivers, he was very limited in what he could do. The secondary, as I've said, was going to get torched by this Tampa Bay Buccaneers receiving core. I predicted that, and I'm not surprised it happened. The only person I'm really going to thank in this video is Jason Kelce. There were obviously guys that played really well throughout the season, like DeAndre Swift, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. I thought those guys played really, really well. I'm not going to say much about Jalen Hurts because he underperformed for what he's getting paid this season. Those guys really, really showed out this year, and I'm really going to give it to Jason Kelce. In his final season, was the best center in the entire NFL. You can make the argument that he was the best offensive lineman in the NFL if you don't want to include Trent Williams in there, or if you want to make the argument that he's better than Trent Williams. I can definitely see that, but he was undoubtedly the best center in the NFL in his final few years, first-team All-Pro, being paid like it. You really have to give him credit. It's a shame that he has to go. Hopefully the Eagles will find his successor, most likely Cam Jurgens, but we'll move towards the future in that. Let's just get right into it. But before we get right into it, guys, make sure you guys subscribe, hit the post notifications on. Go subscribe to my brother, The Great Vlogs. Make sure you guys go subscribe to my second channel at Ryan the Great. Make sure you guys go find me on X at Ryan the Great RTG. Make sure you guys go find me on TikTok at Ryan the Great RTG. Make sure you guys go listen to the latest edition of the CR7 podcast. And make sure you guys go find me on Twitch at Ryan the Great Podcast. Not for you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get in that video. Let's roll the new Ryan the Great intro. Won't it be Ryan the Great? And today it'll be intercepted! The defensive line. What the hell are you doing? No effort whatsoever when it came to the defense. That he is 0 for 2 today. Come on, Stotty. Stop! 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 Red flag! First pitch! Bring him in! Braxton! Stop! Bring that! Yes! Oh, damn. 1, 2, 3. What? Alright, let's run the video. So starting off, I do want to point this out. I don't know what everybody was expecting. People in Philadelphia were expecting the Eagles to win this game. How? How were you expecting the Eagles to win this game? There's no evidence from the past 6 weeks, that you could say with your whole heart that the Eagles were going to win this game. You just couldn't. They fell apart in front of our eyes. And yet you see people saying the Eagles are going to win like they're automatically just had a resurgence. Like the same people saying the Eagles are going to win are the same people saying 2 weeks ago that the Eagles sucked. How? And then people actually listen. It doesn't make any sense to me. I said it before. I said it from the Cardinals game. The Eagles were not going to win a playoff game. They had no chance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know why people were taking them. It makes no sense. Let's just get right into it with the analysis. Starting off with the Eagles, their offense and their quarterback, Jalen Hurts. There really wasn't much he could do. It's as simple as that. He had pass rush in his face every single play. I'll get into the offensive line in a little bit. I thought it affected his reads. I thought there was one play, I think it was in the third quarter, where he had Dallas Goedert wide open in between the defense and between the safety and the corner in that zone coverage. And he looked at Devontae Smith, who was on the same side as Goedert. He looked at him for a split second, then just threw it to Kenneth Gainwell. Never even gave Goedert a look. I thought that pass rush really affected his reads. And he really didn't have too many receivers either. Like, Goddard's very limited in what he could do with his routes because obviously he's a tight end. He can't run to 20 yards down the field every single play. Minus Devontae Smith, there really wasn't anything else. And Smith's not going to be open every single play. Moving on to DeAndre Swift, you can't really blame him at all. He was one of the better parts of this video because while he did average 3.1 yards per carry, he barely got the football. Like, we had 2 straight rushes on the very first drive. We got a first down with DeAndre Swift. And then we had a punt. He didn't get the ball until late in the second quarter. Why? Like, why did that happen? How can you blame him for that? How can you blame him for a performance like that? The man is 4th in rushing yards in the NFL, yet he's barely getting the football, while Jalen Hurts has a finger that looks like this one right here, but a little worse. Why? It made absolutely no sense. I mean, then he got the football when the offensive line was banged up, and, they gave it to him and they hindered his stats. Moving on to our wide receivers, Devontae Smith. The only good thing, he was really one of the only good parts about the offense. Now, once again, I was giving credit to DeAndre Swift, but I'm talking statistics-wise, was really the best part of our offense. 8 catches, 148 yards. I mean, he really had a great game. He was route running really, really well. He was the only one getting open. I thought he ran that post route really well. He ran in between the safety and the cornerback. Winfield, he made sure Winfield couldn't get on an angle. He kind of had him turned around, kind of looking for the football. He didn't really know where the football was going to land. Devontae Smith didn't, circle too far in on that post route to make sure Winfield could turn around and get on an angle to that football. Thought he did a really good job there. Help us try and get back into that game. But wasn't going to be open every single play, as I mentioned before. He wasn't going to be open every single play. It is what it is. Not really much else he could do. Julio Jones, I thought he had a really good first half. Then obviously he got injured, was out for the game with a concussion. If this is the last we see of Julio Jones, I thought he went out pretty well. Obviously his stats are not going to show that. But, taking the fact that the Eagles really didn't have any receivers in that game, you're putting a vet out there with, who's past his prime. The guys were playing 10 yards off. The Eagles took advantage of that. They had him on those out routes, getting those little chunk of yards to help us get closer to the first down marker. So I thought he had a pretty good game. He really was our second best receiver out there without an A.J. Brown. So we'll see. We'll see if they bring him back. I would really like for them to bring him back. I really think that if we can get an actual third option, then he could be a really good 4th option for us. I really believe that. Moving on to Watkins and Zacchaeus. I really feel bad for Zacchaeus. He never could get a chance to perform in this entire season, especially this game. I thought they really could have used him for blocking on those screens because that's Brian Johnson's specialty. It's not a good specialty by any means. So yeah. And Watkins, he's just got to go. This should be his last year. Right? There's no way that you can say that they can bring him back next season, and especially with all the free agents that they have. Just no. Moving on to our tight ends. I mean, once again, as I said earlier, Goddard was limited. What can he really do when it came to running routes? I mean, they had a good plan for him. Run those little hitch routes, run him on the RPOs. I thought they did a good job of using him. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did a really good job defending the RPOs. They made sure that the cornerback stayed in their zone when guys like Devontae Smith, when they would run their corner route, they made sure that that cornerback didn't drop in that corner route. They had the safety pick him up, and then they were able to defend Dallas Goedert pretty easily. They had a really good game plan when it comes to the RPOs. You have to give them a lot of credit for it. He had the touchdown on that RPO, but really there wasn't much else to show for. The offensive line. The injuries really showed in this game. The offensive line was continuously banged up for this entire year, minus Jordan Mailata. Johnson got injured. Kelsey, while it wasn't put out to the press, you could see that he was injured throughout this entire year. There were times where he was getting banged up, and obviously the tush push didn't help. Then you have Landon Dickerson was out for a few games. Cam Jurgens was out for a few games. All that added up into the Eagles not being able to blitz pick up. I thought that they were trying to create way too many double teams, and in turn that let guys get in through their gap. I believe there was one play, Landon Dickerson, I believe this was in the second quarter. Landon Dickerson was trying to double team Vita Vea with Jason Kelsey, and when Kelsey had Vita Vea shut down on that rep, and then I believe, I don't remember his name, I believe it was Devin White, or it could have been somebody else. I don't really remember off the top of my head. But then that linebacker was able to come in from 5 yards off on a delay and came in and just was able to get to Jalen Hurts. They created way too many double teams. The injuries were definitely a problem for them. Now, I'm not making that as an excuse because this is obviously, before coming in, one of the best offensive lines in football. And, that's definitely not an excuse to not be able to blitz pick up. I didn't think that the Eagles did a good job preparing for that as well. So, it is what it is, I guess. Moving on to our defense and our defensive line. I thought they played well in the second half. Obviously, the first half was completely terrible. They created no pressure on Baker Mayfield. They couldn't stop the run. They were getting dominated through the middle like they have been in the last few weeks. But the second half, they really came around. I thought Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox did a really good job, and Jalen Carter. I thought they really did a really good job, squeezing that middle up, making sure White couldn't go up there, because that was what he was doing well in the beginning of the game. Then the Eagles were able to squeeze that up. I thought Jordan Davis did a really good job. He sat and sort. He was able to get off his blocks. He waited for White to come to him. Now, I know I've been criticizing that in the past couple of weeks, but the way you do that is you wait for the running back to get to you. Then you can throw the guy off of you when they're running through the middle to get off your block and make the tackle. He did a good job of that. White obviously knew he was going to do that. He penetrated. The Eagles were able to collapse on top of him. He had a really good game. The rush in the second half I thought was really, really good. One of the only bright spots of the second half. Brandon Graham, Milton Williams, Nolan Smith even got in there. Josh Sweat finally had his first sack. I believe he got in. Did he get in the first half? I don't remember. I think he did. I don't know why Reddick was dropping in coverage, but that's the coaching's fault. I thought the bags in the second half were really, really good. 4 sacks. I haven't seen that in a while, so that was good there. Moving on to our linebackers, I think we really need to replenish our linebackers. Nicholas Morrow can't cover. It's as simple as that. When he was picking guys up like Otten, he had advantages on him. He had 5-yard advantage, he was playing 5 yards off, and Otten somehow still found a way to get open on those crossing routes. Otten didn't run too many routes other than that crossing route. Not sure what Morrow was expecting, but he got burnt like a chicken nugget. Cunningham, he was terrible too. He couldn't tackle. He was missing tackles. He was missing stuff in coverage. He did have one pass deflection, but that pass deflection, in my opinion, was useless because the ball was already behind Mike Evans. Not really much showed for him. It will be a miracle if he's brought back, though. They might need to bring him back, to be honest. The secondary. Boy, oh boy. Maddox can't cover for nothing, man. A tight end is burning you. He literally just waited for the guys to, make a move on him. I'll explain it. So I'm Maddox right here. He's playing 5 yards off. Right? Or 10 yards off, sorry, because he played safety throughout the game, which is because we kind of needed to. So, here's Otten. He's running up to him, right? Now, he either has an option to run a post or a corner. It doesn't matter. Max is just standing there. The second he gets into his break, or gets out of his break, to run his route, that's when Maddox starts to move. Makes no sense whatsoever. You have to be aware, literally seconds after he got out of his break, that's when Maddox started to move. The split second he gets out of his break, he had to, get onto him. That was just a terrible job by Maddox. Ringo and Ricks, I don't think they had enough time playing. I thought they really could have made a difference in this game. Ringo could have replaced Bradbury. I'll get into him in just a second. But he didn't get enough time to play at all. Slay, for the most part, he covered Evans, but in garbage time, Evans, got him a few times. It is what it is. We pray for Darius Slay, though. I thought he had a really good year. In the beginning of the year, he really didn't have, he didn't really do too well, but you got to give him credit in the later part of the season and this game coming back from knee injury with Matt Patricia as that defensive coordinator. Obviously, history there. He had a really good game. Got to give him credit for that. Now it is time for James Bradbury, the moment we've all been waiting for. He was so god-awful that I'm not exaggerating. He needs to be cut. If you go on TikTok right now, you go on Instagram, you go on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, you will see all these people saying, Bradbury sucks and he needs to be cut. Well, nobody gives you analysis on why he needs to be cut, so that's what I'm here for. Bradbury needs to be cut because it's not the fact that he was giving up those routes. People say he can't cover, he sucks, he can't do this, he's getting burned. The problem is that he's not, in this game, is that he wasn't giving up the routes. The Eagles had him playing 10 yards off. That's not his problem. If you give up a 5-yard out route, that's okay. The problem is that you don't put in the effort to get low enough, to be aggressive enough, to go make a tackle. It is your job to go make a tackle. On that out route where I believe it was Moore who scored the 44-yard touchdown, literally his momentum is going towards the sideline because it's an out route. All you got to do is push him. You can literally just push him, and you would have went out of bounds. But you decided to literally just miss him. You didn't get low enough. You didn't wrap up. You didn't go for his outside shoulder. You just, put a shoulder into him and thought that was going to do something. No, man, these guys lift weights too. These guys are in the weight room just as much as you are. That was the problem with James Bradberry. The effort. And that is what we don't want in Philadelphia. We can tell when you don't give effort. And that is what I saw right there from James Bradberry. He needs to be cut. He needs to be cut. It's just the end of him. We need cap space. He needs to be cut for the third, fourth time. He needs to be cut. It's not an exaggeration either. Moving on to our coaching. Thank God that was the last I've probably ever got to see of Brian Johnson in my life in a Philadelphia Eagles jersey or shirt, whatever. I mean, come on. You got to find a way to get Jalen Hurts out of the pocket. While the Eagles didn't do a good job in blitz pickup, you have to find a way to get Hurts out of the pocket. He can't run for his life and have pressure in his face every single play. You didn't use Swift at all. Once again, the first drive, you got a first down with DeAndre Swift. Then you didn't use him until the end of the second quarter. Hurts had limitations. It made absolutely no sense why that they wouldn't use him at all. It just so stupid, man. He didn't find a way to get other receivers involved. Now, while I do, give a lot of stuff to Quez Watkins while he's not that good, they didn't even try to get him involved. They don't sometimes try to get him involved. They didn't even try this time. Patricia, the late season switch obviously was never going to work, especially with Darius Slay. The zone coverage definitely was not helping. I thought that Byard should have, flashed in a little bit more over the middle so they could try to defend that. Those 20-yard digs like that, you knew Mike Evans was going to do that. You knew that was one of their specialties. Not sure why you didn't defend that. Made no sense to me. But the bottom line, I think that this is it for Sirianni. Now, I'm going to probably have a separate video on this, where the Eagles go in the future. But I really think this is it for Sirianni. Yelling at the Chiefs fans, you lying to the media, doing all this talking. You can do that in a private setting. But as the coach, that's just, not professional. While we give BS to past coaches like Chip Kelly, Andy Reid, so on and so forth, I don't give too much BS to Andy Reid. I really loved Andy Reid when, I obviously wasn't alive to see him coach enough. But, from what I hear and what I see, the Eagles were good. So I don't give him too much BS, but that's neither here nor there. We give a lot of coaches BS for their coaching on the field, but when we have to come off the field and, talk about your behavior as a coach is a big problem. Now, I understand that the Eagles, have done really well with him under head coach. Obviously, the highest win percentage in Eagles history as a head coach. So you have to give him a lot of credit for that. But I'm talking about right now. Right now, the team does not want him. They lost faith in him. I've mentioned it before. A.J. Brown said in that players-only meeting, we need to have faith in our coaches. That is implying that the team and him did not have faith in the coaching, and that circles back to Sirianni. That's what it circles down to. I think that it's his time to go. I think they need to go find somebody else. Do I want Bill Belichick? I don't really know. I'm a big fan of Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions. I wouldn't be mad if we were able to get him. But I think already Brian Johnson's out the door. I think that they're ready to get rid of him. I think, he might get a head coaching job anyway for some weird reason. Sean Desai's already been out the door. They indirectly fired him weeks ago. Howie Roseman should be out the door as well. He does not get a pass on this. As well, he assembled this team. He traded for Kevin Byard over Justin Simmons, which I thought was a bad move. Shaq Leonard was a useless move. Now, I give him credit for at least signing him, but it was a useless move at the end of the day. I thought drafting Nolan Smith was a mistake. You obviously had Brian Branch right there, and we needed safeties in this game. And then when you look at a few years ago, you look at Kyle Hamilton. We could have had a first-team All-Pro in Kyle Hamilton. We decided to draft Jordan Davis. Minus this game, didn't have a good season at all. You got to look at that there. I think that Howie Roseman should go. Yeah, but that'll never happen. That's the thing. So I'll have a separate video on where I want the Eagles to go in the future. That might be in a couple days. That video could be for Thursday. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll see. But we'll still be covering the NFL here throughout these playoffs. We'll probably be doing predictions. We might have a reaction video to the wild card game, and then we might have predictions for all the wild card games minus this game, and then we might have predictions for the divisional round. Don't take my word on that. I'm not entirely sure, but we will have to see. But that'll do it for this video, guys. Make sure you guys subscribe with the post notifications on. I know this is a longer video. If you guys made it this far, thank you for sticking around. I know this is a tough one to listen to. It was a tough one for me to talk about. I also I don't know what's going on with my nose here. It's something. I don't know. Something going on with my nose here. A lot of congestion. Anyway. Make sure you guys subscribe to my brother, Underground Vlogs. Make sure you guys subscribe to my second channel at Underground Great. Make sure you guys go follow me on X or Underground RTG. Make sure you guys go follow me on TikTok at Underground RTG. Make sure you guys go listen to the latest edition of the CR7 podcast. And make sure you guys go follow me on Twitch or Underground Podcast. And as always, Ryan the Great out. Peace.